Elena Vargas stood framed in the doorway of her corner suite, arms crossed like a shield, watching Daniel Hayes gather his papers at precisely 5:25 p.m. 4 years in the glass and steel tower of
Four
Brennan
years,
Financial Partners,
Elena.
4 years of
Not a
witnessing this quiet
whisper of
ritual of departure.
romance.
Tonight the dam broke.
People
"Why
talk.
don't
What are
you
you
ever date?"
hiding?
The words slipped free before she could
You
cage
really
them.
want to know?
Daniel froze, hand on the knob. "4 years, Elena, not a whisper of romance. People talk. What are you hiding?" He turned slowly. For the first time she saw it, not anger, not guardedness, but a weariness carved so deep into his blue-gray eyes it seemed to have no floor. "You really want to know?" Her heart thudded against her ribs. She nodded. She could not yet imagine how completely his answer would fracture everything she believed about love, about sacrifice, about the promises that outlive breath itself. 6 months earlier, she had stepped into the CFO role her father had built from nothing. At 32, the nameplate felt like both crown and accusation. She buried herself in performance metrics. Numbers never whispered nepotism, never questioned whether the seat was earned. Reviewing every department, every lead, she found Daniel Hayes. 4 years of immaculate audits, client scores perpetually in the top 2%, the kind of talent headhunters stalked. Yet he had refused every promotion, 4 recommendations for senior roles, 4 polite declines. She called him in on a Wednesday. He arrived on the dot, sat with the patient stillness of someone who had learned waiting as a discipline. "Mr. Hayes, your record is flawless. Why turn down leadership?" "I leave at 5:30. The role requires evenings." She leaned forward, genuinely perplexed. In her universe, ambition was oxygen everyone climbed. Most would kill for the chance. "Not everyone," he said softly, almost tenderly. "Some of us have already found the thing worth climbing toward." Frustrated by the riddle, she let him go, but the words embedded like a thorn. At 5:32 that evening, he merged onto the expressway, route memorized. 20 minutes later, the oak-lined entrance of St. Mary's Care Center opened before him. Nurses at the desk nodded without paperwork. Years had made signatures unnecessary. Room 312 lay at the end of the east wing, where late afternoon light lingered longest. Sarah rested exactly as she had for 4 years since the hit and run, chest rising and falling to the ventilator's mechanical hymn. Her hair had grown long. Daniel brushed it gently, swept back the way she once preferred. "Hey, love, long day." The new CFO, sharp, but she asked why I don't want to manage. A soft laugh. "Couldn't explain. This is already the most important work I'll ever do." He opened their mystery novel, purchased years ago at an airport kiosk, pages softened to velvet from countless readings. He never skipped ahead. They would finish it together, however long together took now. At 7 o'clock, he collected Mia from after-school care. She exploded through the doors, all 9-year-old velocity. "Daddy, Mr. Peters told the funniest penguin and snowman joke today." "Did you tell Mom?" He buckled her in, kissed her crown. "I did." They cooked pasta heavy with herbs, Sarah's recipe, setting 3 places, the empty chair a permanent guest. After homework, bath, and a chapter of The Secret Garden, he tucked her in and sat alone in the darkened kitchen until midnight, staring at the wedding photo taped to the fridge. Sarah laughing at something whispered in her ear, veil caught mid-flight, both of them so young they barely resembled adults. He no longer cried. After the first year, he understood tears changed nothing. Better to save the energy for the living, and for waiting. Some promises, he had learned, carried no expiration date. As Elena's curiosity sharpened into something closer to ache, a single overheard phone call in the parking garage would crack the surface of Daniel's guarded world wide open. 1 month later, Elena caught herself watching Daniel more closely than any CFO should watch an analyst. It began in fragments. Solitary lunches at his desk while laughter spilled from the break room, the practiced art with which he turned personal questions back to spreadsheets, the stark absence of photographs or mementos on his station. No trace of who he became when the clock struck 5:30. The first true fracture appeared on a Thursday afternoon. Walking to her car, she saw him in the lot, phone to his ear. She slowed, not quite eavesdropping, yet unable to hurry past. His voice had changed, soft, threaded with worry, tender as a lullaby. "I'll be there in 20. How was she today? Did she seem comfortable?" A pause. "Good, that's good. Tell her I'm on my way." He ended the call and drove off, never noticing her 3 rows away, keys forgotten in her palm. The next morning, ashamed yet compelled, she asked HRS Tina for his emergency contacts, just in case, for the file. One number, St. Mary's Care Center. A quick search revealed a facility devoted to severe brain trauma, persistent comas, vegetative states, places where round-the-clock care cradled families who refused to surrender hope. Her hands trembled as she closed the browser. Someone waited for him there, every day. Someone whose comfort he checked before he even arrived. Friday evening, the firm's monthly happy hour filled a downtown bar with chatter and clinking glasses. Alina attended because appearances demanded it, nursing a single glass of white while executives vied for her attention. Daniel, predictably, was absent. $10, he's hiding a secret girlfriend, Tina announced beside the pool table. No man that good-looking stays single 4 years without a reason. Or he's just weird, another countered. Ever notice he never talks about his life? It's like he ceases to exist the second he leaves the building. Alina remained silent. She knew more now, but the knowledge felt less like power and more like a stone lodged in her chest. That weekend, Daniel and Mia arrived at St. Mary's with a fresh drawing. Mia had labored all Saturday morning, tongue between her teeth, choosing the exact right greens and blues. "It's us at the park," she explained, holding the paper high. "See, there's you, there's me, and there's Mommy in her yellow sundress, the one from my birthday before." Daniel studied it with grave respect. 3 figures standing, 3 smiles, 3 people together. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Let's show her." They taped it beside the gallery already covering the wall. A vibrant chronicle in crayon of every missed holiday, every ordinary Tuesday, every milestone Mia refused to let Sarah miss entirely. "Do you think she sees them?" Mia asked, small fingers curled around her mother's still ones. Daniel knelt, eyes on Sarah's peaceful face. "I think she feels them, and that's enough." He had to believe it, the alternative was unthinkable. The Evergreen Gala loomed, Brennan's most glittering night, clients and investors circling like sharks in tailored suits. Alina needed Daniel's mastery of portfolio intricacies. "Saturday evening. I need you there." His posture shifted almost imperceptibly. "I have commitments. Reschedule them." "I can't." Frustration flared, but when Alina offered an unthinkable compromise, she opened a door into the sacred rhythm of Daniel's evenings and glimpsed something far larger than work. They stared across the desk, neither yielding. At last, Alina asked the question she should have asked months earlier. "Commitments every single evening, without exception." Something crossed his face, surprise, perhaps, or the faint shock of being truly seen for the first time in years. "Yes, Miss Vargas, everyone." She leaned back, studying the man who refused overtime yet delivered perfection, the almost widower who was not quite one. "What if I moved the gala to Saturday afternoon?" The words surprised even her. "Would that work?" Daniel blinked. In 4 years, no one had ever bent time for him. "You'd do that? I need you there. You have somewhere to be after dark. This seems fair." Her tone stayed crisp, but softness had crept in at the edges. "Start at 1:30, stay until 4:30, he considered. 4:30, no later." "Done," the gala glittered. Daniel arrived in a charcoal suit that sharpened every line of him, quietly commanding, effortlessly charming clients, answering technical questions with calm authority. Alina found her gaze drifting to him again and again. At 4:28, he approached, near the dessert table. "Thank you for the accommodation. I need to leave now." She nodded, startled by the small, unexpected pang. "Of course. You've done more than enough." He vanished before the clock ticked over. A silver-haired investor sidled up, champagne in hand. "Your best guy just slipped out. Everything all right?" Alina watched the doors close behind Daniel. "He has somewhere more important to be." The sentence surprised her. She had never before believed anything could outweigh the work. Yet watching him walk away, she wondered if she had spent years measuring importance on the wrong scale. She began noticing what she had once been too busy to see. Daniel always chose the stairs, as though conserving emotional reserves for battles that mattered more. In his drawer lay a delicate gold locket, Sarah's grandmother's heirloom, passed down through generations as a promise of continuity. He sometimes held but never wore. On the rare days, a smile broke across his face. It stripped years away, revealing the man he must have been before grief reshaped him. One Thursday, he called in sick without explanation. Returning Friday, a colleague teased about his day off. "Mia was ill," he said simply. "She's better now." A daughter. Alina rechecked the file. Second emergency contact, Mia Hayes, age 9, elementary school number, no mother listed. Another evening, she stayed late. At 6:15, his car still sat in the lot, unheard of. She walked down for air and saw him through the windshield, head resting on the steering wheel, motionless, not asleep, simply gathering the frayed edges of himself in the only private space he had left. She lifted a hand to knock, then lowered it. Whatever weight he carried, he had not asked her to share it. The image burned behind her eyes, a good man alone in twilight, steeling himself for whatever came next. When a routine charity tour led Alina straight to room 312, the truth she had half-guessed would land like a physical blow and force her to confront a love she had never known. The visit to St. Mary's was officially about vetting healthcare nonprofits for Brennan Foundation grants. But as Alina followed the director through bright corridors, she knew she was really there because of the man who walked to room 312 every evening without fail. They passed therapy suites where patients relearned small movements, family lounges lined with photo boards, a memorial garden where wind chimes sang softly, and loved ones could sit without pretense. The director spoke of long-term care's quiet brutalities, the financial strain, the emotional marathon, the tiny victories that kept hope flickering. "Our residents remain here because someone still believes they are worth fighting for," she said. "Every person in this building has at least one advocate who refuses to let go." They turned into the east corridor. Through the window of 312, Alina saw him. Daniel beside the bed, reading aloud, free hand wrapped around Sarah's fingers. A woman lay motionless beneath the sheet, chest rising and falling in perfect mechanical rhythm. Alina stopped breathing. "One of our longest residents," the director murmured. "Hit and run 4 years ago. Her husband comes every single day, rain, shine, weekday, weekend. Reads to her, talks to her, brushes her hair, never missed once." Husband. The word struck like a fist to the sternum. Not a sister, not a mother, his wife. "Most families struggle to visit monthly," the director continued. "But this man, 4 years, not a single day absent." Alina watched Daniel turn a page, utterly unaware of her, his face stripped to something raw and unguarded, soft in a way the office never saw. This was who he was. This was where 5:30 carried him. This was why promotions and happy hours and ambition itself had been set aside. Not cold, not antisocial, deeply, enduringly in love. She left the tour unfinished. In her car in the parking lot, she broke. Huge, gasping sobs that tore up from somewhere deeper than her chest, shaking her until her ribs ached. 32 years old, CFO of a thriving firm, and she had never loved anyone the way Daniel loved the woman who could not open her eyes to see him. Never even approached it. She had chosen career over connection at every fork, promising herself love could wait. That success was the only sacrifice worth making. But Daniel had sacrificed success for love, presence over promotion, devotion over advancement, vows over ambition. As the autumn sun bled gold across the horizon, gilding the windshield and warming the tears on her cheeks, Alina understood she had spent her life measuring worth by the wrong compass. The next day, she said nothing. She treated Daniel with the same professional courtesy. Yet now meetings ended 5 minutes early without prompting, schedules never encroached past 5:30. She understood what that hour meant. "I love you, I'm coming, I will never stop." Some secrets demanded quiet honoring, not exposure. The Langford merger pulled them into late afternoon collaboration. She ensured they finished by 5:15. "You don't have to adjust for me," he said once. "I know it creates extra work. Everyone has priorities, Mr. Hayes. I'm learning to respect them." Something eased between them. Conversations lengthened, drifting past numbers into almost personal territory. She told him about the suffocating pressure of following her father's shadow, board members who saw her last name before her spreadsheets, the bone-deep loneliness of being the boss's daughter in a sea of colleagues who looked past her. He listened, no judgment, no quick fixes, no attempt to repair, simply bearing witness. It felt like grace. One evening she asked, "Do you ever feel you're running towards something no one else can see?" He was quiet a long moment. "Every day?" The question that had simmered for months finally escaped her lips, and Daniel's answer would lay bare a promise so absolute it would leave her breathless. It was 7 p.m., 6 months of small shifts and unspoken understanding hanging between them, when Alina finally asked the question that had haunted her since the hospital window. "Why won't you date?" Daniel stood near the door, hand still on the handle, poised to leave as always, but he did not leave. Silence stretched thin and heavy, then he spoke, voice low, and waited. "My wife, Sarah. 4 years ago, a hit-and-run driver took the red light. She was 40 minutes from home. She survived, technically, persistent vegetative state. Doctors recommended withdrawing support. Letting her go, they called it, as though she were a kite string I could simply release." A bitter ghost of a smile. "Her parents agreed. They held a memorial. They mourned and moved forward. I couldn't, because she's still breathing. Her heart still beats, and I made her a promise." "What promise?" Alina whispered. "In sickness and in health, for better or worse, until death do us part." He met her eyes. "She hasn't died, Alina. She's waiting." And I won't abandon her while she waits. Mia needs to know her mother is still here, even if only in body for now. To date would be to break the vows I made, not legally, but to her. And I won't do that while she breathes. Tears burned behind Alina's eyes. Do you still love her? More than the day I married her? Why not let her go? Everyone else did. Because if our places were reversed, Sarah would be there every day, reading, talking, refusing to surrender. That's who she is, that's who she still is, somewhere inside. He paused. Some promises don't have expiration dates. I'm sorry, Alina said, voice cracking. For every time I thought you were distant. For every time I judged the early departures. For every assumption. You couldn't know, he said gently. Most people decide I'm strange or hiding something shameful. You're the first in 4 years who actually asked for the truth. He opened the door, then paused. It means more than you know. She stood alone in the dim office long after he left, the empty doorway a quiet wound. That night's sleep eluded her. She lay in her high-rise apartment staring at the city lights, replaying his words. Some promises don't have expiration dates. She thought of Sarah waiting in silence, of Mia's crayon galleries of hope, of a man who had reordered his entire existence around a vow. 32 at the pinnacle of her career, and she had never loved anyone enough to wait through impossibility. The next morning she arrived early. Nothing had changed on the surface, Daniel at his desk, professional nod, but everything had. She stopped pushing for networking. She defended his 5:30 exits to skeptical board members. He has responsibilities more important than cocktail hours. Privately, she called St. Mary's and arranged an anonymous donation, 6 years of Sarah's care covered. When the director asked why this patient, Alina said simply, some vows deserve to be carried, even the ones we didn't make ourselves. Weeks later, Mia's newest drawing showed the family in a sunlit meadow, and in the background, a solitary woman with auburn hair watching with a small, wistful smile. The nice lady from your work, Mia explained. She looks lonely, like she's still looking for her people. 3 months on, the director called Alina to thank her for the funds and to share cautious news. Sarah had squeezed Daniel's hand. Purposeful, not reflex. Doctors were hopeful. That evening in room 312, Mia curled against her mother's side while Daniel read the mystery's final chapter. They didn't live happily ever after, not the way stories promise, but they lived together, and that was enough. He closed the book. Sarah's eyelids fluttered just barely, her fingers moved against his palm. Take your time, he whispered. I'm not going anywhere, I never did. Outside the window, Alina stood with a small bouquet from the gift shop. She placed it at the nurse's station for Sarah Hayes, 312, and watched a moment longer. Daniel looked up. Their eyes met through the glass. She raised a hand in quiet farewell, then turned down the corridor. Driving home through Chicago's twilight streets, streetlights blooming one by one against the indigo sky, Alina smiled, soft, certain. She had come searching for proof that love could still be real, that people still kept promises when the world said let go. She had found it. In bedside readings, in crayon hope taped to hospital walls, in 5:30 departures that were sacred appointments with devotion. Daniel might never be hers. Sarah might wake tomorrow or sleep forever. The future remained unwritten. But at 32, Alina finally knew what she wanted, not corner offices or power, but someone who would come every day, no matter how long the silence lasted. Someone who understood that the greatest gift love can give is simply being seen, truly, quietly, to the end. In room 312, Daniel resumed the next book, Mia sketching beside him, Sarah's hand warm in his. Sometimes devotion itself was miracle enough. Sometimes being seen was everything.